In the last 2 days, we talked about 3 bad response patterns: deflecting, reacting, and wandering. They look different on the surface, but they often share a common shape, a communication system under pressure. We also covered how these on the receiving end of these bad responses can protect their energy and navigate the friction. If you're listening to this and something in the description of these 3 patterns landed a little uncomfortably close, this section is for you. And I want to say at the outset, the fact that you're here, taking this in, is already a form of courage. If you want to build true connections through conversation and don't want to be left behind or isolated, know that these good things take work. In fact, they're unique blessings. In the traditional 4 pillars of destiny analysis, each person is blessed with a different configuration of gifts. The people who can effortlessly talk to anyone may lack other profound strengths that you possess. Anyway, if you aren't a great responder in conversations yet, let's build your toolkit. Tool number 1. Name what is actually underneath the reflex. Before your next deflection, irritation, or conversational detour, pause and ask yourself, what am I actually angry about? What reality am I resisting? What did I need that I didn't get? Where did I learn that engagement was unsafe? These questions are not rhetorical. They're excavation tools. Irritation at a new piece of information is almost never about the information itself. It's about the accumulated pressure of what that information implies, that something could have been different, that change is possible but requires effort, or that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is real. Naming that accurately, in private, in writing, begins to separate the present moment from the accumulated past running through it. Remember what I said before? What you name no longer owns you. You can use my anger logbook too. Under what happened, write a brief description of the conversation, and under the potential primary emotion underneath, write down the irritation or frustration you experienced. Tool number 2. Practice the sentences you don't say yet. This is a simple behavioral trick, and it works. Neurologically, language shapes cognition just as much cognition shapes language. When you practice uttering phrases that your nervous system currently resists, you're building new neural pathways toward the responses you actually want to have. Practice out loud when you're alone. That's interesting. I haven't thought about it that way before. I don't know much about that, but I'm curious to learn. That's fresh input. Thank you for sharing it with me. These are not mere social niceties. They're small, somatic acts of reorientation, training the mind back toward contact instead of withdrawal. Do them when the stakes are low. The nervous system learns from consistent repetition, not from insight alone. Tool 3. The Buddhist second arrow. Buddhist teachings share the parable of the 2 arrows. The first arrow is the actual painful event, which causes natural physical or emotional pain. The second arrow is our reaction to that event, our subsequent anger, fear, resistance, or regret. While we may not always control the first arrow, we can learn to avoid the second. The second arrow is not the raw feeling of sadness or anger itself. It is the added layer of resistance, self-attack, and compulsive story-making that turns a fleeting emotion into a prolonged struggle. It sounds like, why does this always happen to me? Things will never change. They always disrespect me. These are second arrows, and they're the ones that keep the wound open long after the original hit. The practical goal is not to never get hit by a second arrow. Everyone does. The goal is to shorten its duration, noticing it sooner, recovering faster, and responding with less self-compounding reactivity. When you feel irritation rise at new information, or the reflex to deflect, or the pull of an internal tangent, ask yourself, is this the first arrow or the second? Is this strictly about what just happened, or is it about what happened years ago, surfacing through this moment? The RAIN practice, developed by psychologist and meditation teacher Tara Brach, gives this a practical structure. Recognize what is arising. Allow it to be there without fighting it. Investigate it with curiosity rather than judgment. Nurture yourself through it. These 4 steps interrupt the second arrow before it lands deep. Tool number 4. The Taoist pull. Taoist philosophy offers a complementary lens. Pu, the uncarved block, represents a mind that is not overshaped by fixed categories, leaving it able to meet the world freshly. Pu trains a stance of low preconception and high receptivity, which expands our capacity for exploration and weakens unhelpful rigidity. By the age of 40, most people have a fixed set of responses to almost every situation, not because they chose them deliberately, but because those responses calcified gradually while they were busy living. The Taoist question is whether it's possible to recover the openness of a child's orientation while retaining the wisdom and capacities that come with experience. A person who responds to new information with immediate irritation or deflection has, in a sense, a deeply carved block. Every new idea immediately slips into a pre-existing groove. This is a threat. This means I should have known. This means change is required. Change is dangerous. The practice of Pu is the gradual, deliberate softening of those grooves, not erasing your life experience, but preventing it from becoming your prison. Practically, this means that before a conversation, before reading something new, or before receiving feedback, you pause and ask, can I approach this as if I don't already know how it ends? Not naively, not without your hard-earned experience, but with enough internal space that something genuinely new can land. Tool number 5, the Pennebaker method. Structured, expressive writing. This is one of the most replicated tools in psychological science and one of the most accessible. Expressive writing provides a safe outlet for intense emotions, allowing us to process and release pent-up feelings. Writing deeply about challenging or overwhelming experiences helps us make sense of them, gain new perspectives, and measurably reduce stress and anxiety. Pennebaker's research reveals that this practice can lower anxiety and depression, decrease behavioral aggression, and shift our cognitive self-esteem. The basic protocol is simple. Write about your deepest thoughts and feelings regarding a stressful or frustrating experience for 15 to 30 minutes. Do it for 3 to 5 consecutive days, without worrying about spelling, structure, or grammar. The key is specificity. Don't just write, I am angry. Write down what happened, what your primary underlying emotion was, and what you actually needed in that moment. My Anger Logbook 2 is built on exactly this principle. Getting the material out of your nervous system and onto a page begins to relieve the internal pressure that currently colonizes your conversations. Tool number 6. Acknowledge when insight is not enough. If a defensive communication pattern is deeply long-standing, intellectual insight may not be enough to shift it. For patterns rooted in years of learned helplessness, accumulated grief, chronic stress, or early experiences of powerlessness, cognitive approaches alone often cannot reach the physiological layer where the defense system was organized. Trauma-informed therapy, somatic work, and EMDR address both the body and the narrative. This matters because when language feels blocked by a perceived threat, the communication disruptions are linked to disrupted neural connectivity that purely verbal approaches struggle to access. This is not a personal failure. It is a recognition that the body keeps the score, and sometimes the healing work has to happen in the body first. The reflex is not your identity. It is a learned response to a world that, at some point, taught you that engagement was unsafe. The lesson made perfect sense back then, but you're allowed to unlearn it now. If you find this useful, hit like and subscribe. And thank you. Your attention and interest in translating anger is received and appreciated.